of statistics into a larger social and political context has been characterized by greater attention paid to different actors, situating the history of statistics at the intersection of the history of the social sciences and the history of the tools of governance or the management of society. The census forms only a part of social statistics, often the oldest part, and it holds only slight interest for scientific innovation. In contrast, the census plays a central role in the diffusion of quantification and statistical reasoning, being both exhaustive and conducted by nation-states. In this respect, it is indeed a mirror in which nations see themselves. This function can be clearly seen in the United States in the first half of the 19th century, when the results of each census were awaited as confirmation of the exceptional destiny of the nation, signaled by its demographic vitality. But if the census participated in this process of construction of the United States, by dividing up the population according to categories, it contributed equally to the ordering and hierarchizing of the social world, or at least to codifying the existing hierarchies. Studying the history of the population categories utilized by the U.S. Census also means analyzing the actual process by which the American population was defined by the state. American history presents the distinctive trait, often put forward, that the nation was formed not from a territory or a people, but from principles expressed in legal and political documents. The U.S. Census was created by the American Constitution to divide up taxes and congressional seats among the federated states, and for that reason it was organized around a fundamental division of Americans into three groups: free residents, counted in full; slaves whose numbers were adjusted by a coefficient that reduced their numerical importance; and Indians, who were excluded from the count. As a result, the administrative categories of the census, though they lacked the force of legal norms, nonetheless had a leading role in the measurement and definition of the American population and its composition. This work is guided by the idea that the population does not pre-exist the census, that the census participates in the production of the national community defined by the inclusion of some and the exclusion of others. Following in the footsteps of other works on the construction of the nation, it highlights the processes and negotiations that mobilized very diverse actors, whether institutions such as Congress, which regulated the U.S. Census through legislation, the directors and agents of the census, the spokespeople of groups or collectives, or the residents themselves. Even though socio-professional categories and statistics concerning professions deserve attention, this book focuses only on the categories that distinguish human groups by their race or origin. By concentrating on racial and ethnic categories, this study aims also to reunite historiographical fields that in the United States are seen as separate: studies on race and studies on immigration and ethnicity. Examining the history of population categories in the U.S. Census serves a dual purpose, both investigating the importance of the census in the production of social categories, especially as a norm for other actors, and looking at the importance of racial and ethnic categories in American society. The fact that American ethnic and racial statistics have been used as a reference in other countries adds to the value of a research project based on the idea that these categories can only be understood in their historical context. Race has long been a category of analysis in American social sciences, even if it has become a truism to call it a socially constructed category freed from its origins in biology. A detailed examination of the social and scientific usages of racial categories, as they have been produced and mobilized by public statistics in the American context over the past 2 centuries, allows for some discussion of the relevance of the comparison and of the importation of categories in a different national context. The history of the categories of the U.S. Census here comes down to a history of the construction